Stargirl episode 3, Frenemies, the Blacklist. Or no, the black male. Or the black female. And it's your boy Icon with a little DCTV talking about that Stargirl. So, in this particular episode, this is mostly focused on Starman. And he is roaming the streets of Blue Valley because he's searching for purpose, and he's searching for a life outside of Starman. He's going around the town, trying to learn how these quaint, small town folks, handle business and do things, and he's perplexed by everything that he sees. And then he goes down to the diner where Yolanda apparently works again. I don't know how that happened. And, while he's talking to her, she's just asking him questions. And then, the woman that the Shade's been teaching how to make tea, she ends up giving Starman a cup of tea. And this is gonna be I see now this is gonna be a running joke throughout the course of the entire season. Like, she pours him some tea, and then he tries, and he's like, geez, this is the best damn tea I've ever had. And then she's like, the finest in the county. And I'm like, you thank the Shade. So, and then Yolanda comes up to him, and then she starts asking him, she's like, what would have the real Ted Grant thought of me? And he says he would have thought you were a badass, because you tell it like it is and everything. And then he said, I'm just out here trying to find purpose and trying to find a way to balance life, like being Starman and Sylvester, because he doesn't know how to be Sylvester. He never got married. He doesn't have children. He doesn't have a business. He doesn't have any ventures outside of being Starman. So, and because him and Courtney now, they're splitting the duties of the staff. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do outside of this whole thing, and he's failing miserably. The JSA now, they're still on the path of trying to find out who killed the gambler. Now, they're all sitting at the table, and there was a point where Beth ended up getting a random message through her goggles where somebody was feeding Beth information through the goggles about how, the gambler's been doing certain transactions and everything. And one of the transactions that was discovered was that the gambler at some point was blackmailing the Crocs, which is what the Crocs were talking about in the last episode, where they were just like, oh, they're going to find out eventually. And that what it was that the gambler was actually blackmailing them. And now that they know that, the gambler was blackmailing them, Courtney was like, oh, I thought he was trying to change for his family. And then that's when Rick, Cindy were just like, oh, let's go take the Crocs down. And then Courtney was like, no, she was like, listen, just because the gambler, was blackmailing them doesn't mean that the Crocs killed him. And then she said that we need to have solid proof and solid, evidence that it happened. Because they were just like, and it was such a simple thing. All you have to do is just go up to them and be like, hey, we found out that you were being blackmailed. What's the deal? But everybody was like, oh, they're guilty, right out the gate. And this is why, and I can't even blame them. I can't even blame it on them being children. Because I was about to say, this is why you can't have children leading these things, but the adults were just bad. And they ended up going to Pat. They told Pat the whole thing. And Pat came up with the idea that both he and Courtney were actually going to go talk to the Crocs before everybody gets in over their head. Courtney even said to the group, she said, listen, while Pat and I are trying to put this plan into effect, do not tell Sylvester that the Crocs were being blackmailed by the gambler, because he's hot-headed and he's going to immediately go down there and try to whoop the Crocs' ass and try to blow this motherfucker up before we can get the information. So, of course, Cindy does the one thing that she said not to do, which was Cindy actually goes to the house and tells Sylvester that the Crocs were being blackmailed, because Cindy was hoping that by telling him that, he would be like, hey, let's team up together and go take him down, and she could work with Starman and get his seal of approval. This whole thing with Sydney is just about getting approval. But instead, Starman actually read her the riot act, called her a demon-spawned, self-absorbed biatch, and he said that he doesn't trust her and that he doesn't want anything to do with her or any of the other any of the ISA members, and then he slammed the door in her face. But her plan worked because he ended up taking the staff and going after the Crocs. And although her plan was for her to go with him, that wasn't the case, because again, the guy's a loose cannon. So he goes down to the supermarket of all places. He's at the supermarket. The Crocs are at the supermarket doing grocery shopping, and then Sylvester just rolls up on him with the staff and starts blowing shit up. And I'm just like, and it was bad because even the Crocs were just like, bro, why are you out here in broad daylight with the staff? Why do you have the staff? You know what I'm saying? And then he didn't give him a chance to explain. He was just like, surrender and admit what you did. And then the two of them got to a point, they're like, look, I was tired of this whole wholesome Pleasantville shit anyway. So this big brawl happened, and this big fight happened between Sportsmaster, Artemis Tigress, and Starman in the supermarket. I don't know why the police didn't show up. Mike ended up overhearing Starman's conversation with Cindy, and, you know, he knew that Starman was going after the Croc, so he called Courtney to give her the heads up. So after the fight was over, you know, and it was a damn good fight, I'm not gonna lie. Pat ends up showing up in the robot, and he stops the fight between both of them. He brings the Crocs back to the house. The Crocs explain the situation to everybody. They said that they were being blackmailed by him because he was trying to frame them for crimes that other JSA members committed unless, you know, they gave him money. So, and this is interesting because there was a conversation in the chat where, and this was true, the Crocs, the whole thing about the Crocs getting put in jail and then being released from jail. First of all, it was never explained how they got released from jail because Sportsmaster even said, he was like, oh, there was a loophole. There was like a technical loophole that got us out of prison. First of all, here's why that's BS. In the season finale for last season, when the Crocs and Artemis showed up to help with the fight against Eclipso, Artemis specifically said when she got there, because when Artemis got there, Cindy was like, oh, it's about time you showed up. And then somebody, it was either Tigress or Artemis, somebody made the comment like, yeah, I had to go break my parents out of prison. So we're led to believe that Artemis was the one that broke her parents out of prison, which is why we were all like, if they got broken out of prison, why are they allowed to purchase a house across the street from Stargirl and the rest of the gang? And now they're saying there was like some technicality, like some technical issue, whereas like they got out of prison, but it was never explained. What was the technicality? Did the gambler do something to get them out of prison? Did a villain do something to get them sprung from prison? It was never explained how they got out of prison, but we're just supposed to believe like some, you know, like some magical mumbo jumbo happened. That needs to be explained. Like, that definitely needs to be explained. So after they explained, they were just like, yeah, you know, we were paying him, which is why they wanted to kill him, but they didn't. And then Sportsmaster even said, he said, I actually did roll up on him the day that he died, but I had to change of heart at the last minute and I didn't go through with it. But then they said like the day before he died, he stopped blackmailing them and all the money that they paid him got returned to them in full. And that's when Courtney was like, oh, so he was trying to be better and he was trying to do the right thing. And they were like, yeah, he actually did give us our money back, so we decided not to kill him. But the reason why we hated him, the reason why we were so angry at him was because he was blackmailing us from the beginning. So now they're just like, they're trying to figure out what to do. Sylvester overheard the conversation and he got upset. Pat went to go talk to him, and then Sylvester blessed him out. He was like, first of all, you're my sidekick, and how dare you get in front of me? And I'm really waiting for Pat to knock him on his ass, because that's like the third time Sylvester then came out his face and put disrespect on Pat's name. And I'm waiting for, and Pat's handling it the right way. He's being very calm about it. He's like, I'm nobody's sidekick. And he just explained the whole thing about how Courtney's dad was a complete ass and how she looks up to Starman and she looks up to the rest of the adults and how they need to set an example and be a better Starman for the kids, you know, for the next generation. But I'm still waiting for Pat to smack the shit out of him because Sylvester keep coming out his face. So, you know, so then after that, Sylvester felt some kind of way. And then he was just like, all right, you know, he thought about it. And then he was just like, well, there has to be a clue or something as to how the gambler died. So Sylvester was like, I'll go check that out. And the staff wanted to come, but he was just like, no, because it's not my turn to be Starman. It's Courtney's turn, and I have to set an example, and I have to respect the rules. So he goes down there by himself with a flashlight, and while he's down there, we actually see somebody, the person who put the cameras up in everyone's house. We saw that person in a sewer somewhere, and then Starman, something grabbed Starman and took him up into the sky and whooped his ass tremendously and then dropped him down on the floor. I still think he's a mole that hasn't gone away, but I am a little interested now to see what's going to happen as far as like who whooped his ass. And I feel like they're going to try to blame it on Grundy, and Grundy didn't even come back to life yet. So that was it for Starman. So now he's laying in a pile of his own blood, and then, you know, we'll see what happens with him next week or how long he ends up being in a coma, because now that the Shade is gone, now that other members of the JSA is gone, I think it's time that Starman takes a break. We're probably going to get him off the show for a little bit as well. Courtney told Cindy that, bitch, if you ever disrespect us again and go behind my back, you're off the team. And then Cindy was just like, okay, fine. But then she said that, you know, she apologized and said that she was trying to get Starman's approval, but she realized he's an ass. And now they're trying to figure out, you know, what to do going forward to find out who really killed the gambler. Though Cindy still hasn't told them that she has the laptop. and she's still trying to break into it because she's still trying to figure out who killed him so she can prove herself as a JSA member, which is the dumbest thing in the world because all you have to do is just take the laptop to Beth and Beth will decode it for you. But she's trying to do it on her own so she can prove herself to the JSA, and that whole thing is like driving me insane. And then Cameron, like Icicle Jr., you know, and he's the GOAT for this one. He was at school, and while he was at his locker just minding his business, Courtney came up to him and she was just like, "Hey Cameron, how are you?" And he just looked at her and walked away. And I was like, that's some G shit. Like, he didn't say anything. He just looked at her like, "Bitch, please," and he walked away. That was dope. And then he got into it. He got into it a little bit with Rick. And then, you know, him and Rick had their whole little thing. And then he apologized to Courtney later. The two of them went for a walk. She touched his hand. And then he jumped back because he was afraid his hand was going to turn to ice and freeze Courtney. So now he's struggling with the whole, like, icicle thing. They did a weird thing at the end, though, where his grandparents ran out of the room, out of their house, and they were just like, "Oh, it's time," and we never found out what it was time for. So, you know, so hopefully we'll find out that information in the next episode. Tigress rolled up on this random white guy that's harassing Barbara, and she basically made him leave Barbara alone because Barbara helped her with her speech because she got into the women's club after baking that cake. So there's a lot of extra stuff, a lot of extra drama going on, but Stargirl is still a damn good show. It's very well written. I'm enjoying it, and thank you for tuning in. So share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. Let me know what you think about what's going on with Stargirl so far. Do you think Pat is going to smack the taste out of Sylvester's mouth before the season's over? I still personally believe Sylvester's a mole. The person who was downstairs in the sewer with all the TVs, that was the Red Skull looking guy. And like I said, I'm just waiting for the shade to come back. But I saw that in next week's episode, Cameron actually bust through. So we'll see how that goes, and you know how things will shape up going forward. So check out my other videos. Check me out on Twitter and or Instagram. Check out my season finale review of Harley Quinn. Check out my She-Hulk review for all you Marvel fans that are into that. Check out all my other videos as we wait for Titans and Doom Patrol. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So until next time, for some more Stargirl action, keep your name off the blacklist. And until then, we're out this bitch.